Photoshop has changed, all thanks to the new Photoshop CS5. Now there's a lot to talk about in terms of CS5, so let's get straight on with it. There's lots of little things that have changed, lots of nice little touches that are kind of driven by your graphics card. Things such as scrubby zoom. All I'm doing here is dragging to the right to zoom into the image and dragging to the left to zoom out. How easy is that? It's just brilliant. Also, as far as picking colours is concerned, you'll remember in previous versions of Photoshop we used to have to use the old colour palette, which when you're using a stylus in particular is quite awkward because these sliders are very small, or of course we could kind of click on the foreground colour swatch. Well, all that is over and done with. Now we've got a marvellous new heads up colour picker. We can activate this by holding down the Alt and Shift keys on the keyboard and then simply right click, so we can choose the hue from the bar down the side there, and we can also choose the shade from the square in the middle. Now this is just brilliant as far as picking colours is concerned in Photoshop. It's never been as good as this. And just release the mouse button to choose your appropriate colour. So great stuff. Few more little changes. I can't cover everything in this short video review, but we'll try and cover quite a few things. The eyedropper tool, we've now got an option up in the options bar here to show a sampling ring, so we can click with the eyedropper. We've got a grey circle to isolate the new colours from the existing image, so you can judge them better. The bottom half of the circle shows our current pick, the current foreground colour in effect, and the top half of the circle shows the new colour that we're about to pick. I mean, just makes picking colours far more easier and accurate. Okay, let's really get down to business here. We've got a new brushes panel, the brush preset panel, in CS5 now. This is just a great place to choose your brushes from sooner than the conventional brush picker. Just makes things far easier all in all. You'll also see some nice doody new brushes within this particular panel that we're going to come back to in a little while. But preset panel, brilliant, you'll love it. You can also from here access the old conventional brush panel, and one thing I really like about the preset panel is if we kind of hover over one of these brush presets, you'll notice in the stroke preview of the brush panel over here that the stroke preview actually updates. So without actually choosing a brush to work with, we can kind of preview what kind of strokes those brushes will make. I mean, really good, really. That's a real advance as far as kind of managing brushes is concerned. Another little thing I ought to point out is you'll remember when we wanted opacity and flow in a brush to be driven by stylus pressure, we used to go to a category within the brushes palette called other dynamics. That's changed now. It's actually called transfer now, but we can still access exactly the same controls for controlling opacity via pen pressure. Also, up in the options bar here, we've got some shortcuts that enable us to enable opacity via pressure in just a single click. So that's a nice little touch. Okay, so I know exactly what you'll all want me to talk about here. You'll have heard about it, no doubt, but it will be nice for you to actually see it in action. We want to talk about the new mixer brush. Now, the mixer brush is just a fantastic thing. You'll find it nested below the conventional brush tool. We'll choose the mixer brush tool from here. Now, the mixer brush allows you in effect to paint with in effect paint that will kind of blend and smudge together. Let me just add a new empty layer to this image. We'll check on sample all layers here, just increase the size of the brush a bit. I can choose one of the new bristle brushes from here. These are wonderful things. We'll be talking a lot more about these in future. Just reduce the size of that a little. Now we have preset controls for this mixer brush, which dictates the way the mixer brush actually handles paint in terms of moistness and blending, and the degree to which the brush will mix the colours. So we can choose those simply from this preset. Here let's go for very wet light mix. What I'm going to do is just deactivate this particular brush load control, and then you'll see on this completely plain empty layer I can actually literally just clone this photograph into a painting. I mean, this is a real advance. If any of you have actually used Corel Painter in the past, we've been able to sort of clone paintings from photographs in there for quite a while now. Well, now you can do it in Photoshop. You know, I mean, look at this. With just a few simple strokes, the brush is actually picking up the underlying colours of the photograph, and within a few very, very simple strokes I'm actually transforming this instantly into a painting, as it were. We've got lots more presets here. Very wet, heavy mix. You know, they're pretty self-explanatory. The higher the mix value, then the more the colours kind of mix together on the canvas. As I said, in Photoshop Creative over the coming months, we're obviously going to be doing an awful lot with this mixer brush, but just as a little taster, you know, this gives you an idea of the kind of effects that we can achieve. And this is huge news as far as Photoshop users are concerned. If I actually turn this background off, you'll see the kind of colour I've cloned from the original background photograph. I mean, you could create an entire painting just with this single technique. Of course, we can actually paint with colour with the mixer brush. Let's just turn the load brush button back on there. Let me choose a colour for foreground. Let's choose moist light mix from here, and I can actually directly paint with colour. And look at the way, you know, this is kind of blending together, kind of picking up this paint that I've already put down. Let's just zoom into that a little, and you'll see a bit more what I'm actually talking about here. Back to the mixer brush tool, and again let's paint some colour on here. Look at this lovely way that these brush strokes are kind of blending together and blending all the colours together there. I'm afraid I've given our friend the parrot a bit of a mullet there, but you'll get the idea. If we choose one of the dry presets, you'll see these strokes are much more obvious and in effect drier. Once again, let's just deactivate the load icon there and choose one of the wet heavy mix varieties, and I can literally use this as a kind of blender. You know, I can just play with this thing to gently blend the existing colours together. So this is just fantastic. This is such big news. I'm so excited about it. As you'll see in the feature in the magazine this month, there's so much more to CS5 than just that. But for kind of artistic creatives such as ourselves, this for me is the killer tool. Okay, so have a go with CS5. You'll love it.